First I got to give credit where credit's due, and our support system tonight in the EBA was elite. It was electric. Flowers to our support system. EBA was rocking. I felt the energy from the start of the game to the finish of the game, and it's what conference play is all about. Especially when you fought through so many different things to start the year, non-conference, and then you arrive in conference play. You go through what you go through on the road, find different ways to win, and it's a game of separation we're playing. And like I've told these guys, the competition is going to get harder and harder because you're going to get the best version of each team. And for us to just step up, credit to GW, kind of had their backs against the wall. Obviously lost at home to Davidson. They came in right away and punched us in the face. But, blow after blow, we responded, and I'm happy for these guys because they're learning exactly what they need to learn as we get down the stretch in conference play. So big-time win for us.
Questions for Riley or Corey first?
Corey, it seemed like they had you guys sped up a little bit more than you guys have been recently with the turnovers early, and you guys got back to the kind of the way you normally have been of late. What do you think sort of went into the early struggles, and how did you get that thing corrected?
I feel like just staying patient. We knew we was up 8 at half, so they was going to play with a little bit more desperation. And we're one of the best teams, I feel like, in the nation and in the conference and taking care of the ball. So I feel like that's what had us in a little hole, just turning over the ball a little bit, but understanding just taking our time, relieving pressure, understanding that throughout that pressure we're going to have advantages, so just slowing down and reading the floor.
Riley, you guys, obviously, they went with a big look at a few times in this thing. How did you guys defend that effectively, particularly in the second half?
Yeah, obviously we just had to be the more physical team. They have two really good big men, and we knew it would be a challenge, so we just had to be more physical on the boards. And on offense, we knew we could go at them because they'd be a little bit slower, and I think we did that. So,
Riley, obviously with Castro out on the floor, how much of that matchup was an emphasis on team defense versus your own personal matchup?
Yeah, we came out in the first 4 minutes. I think we were trying to double, kind of stay out of foul trouble and see what was going to happen. And then for the rest of the game, we just kind of went straight up and played one-on-one on the post and just had everyone stay with their guy. And I just had to kind of tough it out and see what was going to happen.
Teed you up right there for that, too, I'll tell you later.
Riley, you got some clutch free throws and rebounds in the final minute, and then Corey, you basically ended the game with your points in the final 10 seconds. Do you feel that you and your teammates play best under pressure?
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun, especially to have the fans here going in our favor, have the energy in EBA. It's amazing. So I think when the pressure's on, it's especially in our own gym, it's definitely in our advantage.
Corey, congrats on the win. Curious, from Templeton to EBA, over 1,000 points. Obviously, yes, you want to get the win, all of that. What's it mean to you to reach that milestone, especially in such an important game?
It's just a blessing, It's just a blessing. It's always been a goal of mine, since I got in college. But just being able to do it here, like I say in every interview I have, EBA is the best gym in the nation. So being able to have these fans behind me and the coaching staff and players that I have on my side and be able to reach an accomplishment like that is nothing but amazing.
Corey, we saw you out in the court, gesturing to the crowd, getting the crowd hyped. Just how important, how good does it feel to have the backing of the EBA crowd in such an important game like this one?
That's amazing. I feel like they put so much pressure on the other team. They're loud, they're after, they're always on our feet, and it helps us out. In games like that, in a tough situation, I want to say it's always been a one-possession game, and that game came down to one possession. And having our fans being able to be loud and cause chaos, I feel like it really gave us, the upper hand in that battle.
Riley, the key for you guys defensively down the stretch, you hold them to one basket over the last 4 minutes, turn them over 3 times. What was the emphasis? What was the execution?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the way we practice. We practice super hard, and we practice those scenarios all the time. We call it perfect possession, and we just have to get a stop in 24 seconds, with no mistakes. And I think it just kind of shows how hard we work in practice, and we obviously executed that in the game, which is why we won.
Corey, Jahari made his one basket today count big time. It seems like there's been a lot of those moments throughout this season where it seems like he might not be having the greatest shooting day and then hits something like that. What do you see from him on a regular basis that allows him to rise to moments like that, and in that moment in particular?
Yeah, he's an older veteran guy. He's been in college for a long time, and he's a great player, So moments like that, he never gets too high, never gets too low. I mean, you never see Jahari change his face. So in a moment like that, when it's time for him to step up to the plate, even if he had no points all game or had 20 points all game, we trust him to take those kind of shots. And like I say all the time, I feel like he's one of the best late shot clock makers, in the country. So, I mean, that's a great shot for him. He's always in the gym working hard. So seeing him hit that shot in that moment, which we needed him, it was amazing.
start with the same subject for you. I mean, Jahari obviously had, that shot obviously was a major moment in this game, and he's had those moments throughout this season. How important has he been for this team to get to this point?
I mean, it's important. It's very, very important. I think I think the most important thing before we talk about Jahari Long is where that pass came from. Putting the ball in, Fat Hill's hand in moments down the stretch. It's just hard to guard multiple, playmakers. When I took this job, I wanted to have a ball screen offense, and I think our first 2 years we just didn't have enough playmakers, and that was something that we were intentional about in the portal. Obviously, when you think about Braden, when you think about Corey, when you think about Jahari and Fat, you take Braden out of the equation. Fat's really, really, really stepped up, and what he's actually gotten better at over the course of the last 4 or 5 games. Teams are starting to go onto his ball screen, but he's just finding creases and he's finding alleyways. He's athletic enough to finish certain plays, but more importantly, he's using his size and his ability to see the floor to just find those angles. And I just thought, in that situation where I kind of ran a play for him, the play wasn't there, and he saw what he needed to see. And going back to Jahari, I mean, he's as poised as anybody I've ever coached. You can look at his stat line and say he only had 3 points. 5 assists, 4 turnovers, but he leads our league in assist to turnover ratio. He's got to be one of the best in the country, and you're not gonna have a perfect game every game. And getting the confidence that these guys kind of just pass to each other, that's a tough shot to hit in that stretch of a moment. But again, he's an older guy. He's so relaxed, a little too relaxed. But maybe it's good for him because most kids don't make that shot, and he did when we needed it to.
As you guys keep stacking wins and a number of them being close, how comfortable is this group in those situations, and how unusual is it for a team to be this comfortable at this point in the season rather than in March, basically?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. It's the game we play. It comes with a lot of pressure. Win, lose, or draw. I believe in just making sure these guys have as much poise in our practice as possible. We don't put pressure on these guys. We coach them up. They respond to that coaching, and we've just seen so many different ways to win a game. Obviously our non-conference, it didn't go the way I wanted to go in. You want to beat some of these teams by a certain, number just because you want to be rewarded by the metric, et cetera, et cetera. But I've said it before, you handle your business however which way you can handle it, and you find different ways to win. And I think that's, it just becomes a domino and just finding different ways, playing multiple guys, just the next man up mentality. It's really helped us down the stretch here where, again, we've got, I would say 90% of college basketball is probably down to playing 7.5 to 8.5 guys, and we're at like 9.5. And so it's good for us. Like I said, we're going to play some really, really good teams for the rest of conference play, and being in these moments and just finding ways, it's never too late to continue to get better and just find different solutions to winning a basketball game, and I thought we did that tonight.
Tony, 18 points and 12 rebounds for Riley this evening. He also had that early three. He also had those late free throws. How encouraging is it to get a night like this against a team like this in a game like this?
Yeah, I feel like I'm back coaching in the Big Ten, man, because I learned one thing in the Big Ten. There's a lot of really, really good bigs in the Big Ten from top to bottom, right? And you look at our league, you've got Avila at St. Louis. You've got, obviously Castro, who we saw what he can do tonight. You got Ruben at Loyola Chicago. When they get healthy, they're going to be really, really good. And I'm just looking at it like when you think about all conference, man, there might be 3 or 4 bigs on that list, and Riley's right up there with the best of them. His skill, his poise, his ability to shoot the basketball, his ability to go down the stretch here when you get to the free throw line and capitalize and make your free throws. Those are all things that he's having a phenomenal year. He's a guy we can go down to and throw the ball to, and, if you don't guard him on a three-point line, he just do so many different things, man. And I don't have to say anything about poise with Riley because he's just, even though he's technically a junior that didn't play as much last year, he's just so poised and so skilled, and, he's getting it done for us, and so I'm happy for him.
And it seemed like when GW made their runs, they were able to turn you guys over, get in transition. What was the key for you guys in kind of negating that, especially late?
Yeah, it's I mean, they're a very handsy group. They get after it defensively, and the game plan with their ball screen coverages, it's not rocket science. I played the game, I played that position, and some of our guys, you just think through some of our practices, our film, and our walkthrough, and our shell, and all these different things. You think that they're receiving the information, and then you put 7,000 people out there, and it's just like, someone presses a button and they forget some of that. And so I knew that the ball screen was going to bother us, and I thought early on we actually did a pretty good job of just our quick zips and getting rid of it. We actually got some pretty good shots early, but I just thought in moments we started to hang on to it a little bit too long, and it caused some turnovers, which led to some early transition points for them. I believe they had 12 transition points. You take away 12 points out of the 30 they had at halftime, and maybe it's a 15-point deficit, right? Or maybe even more, because now we have more possessions. And so details matter in these games. And, again, we were able to just kind of adjust at halftime, and I thought we took a little bit better care of the basketball and did what we needed to do.
Coach, you mentioned those adjustments at halftime. I want to ask you, what do you think was the biggest improvement for the team as the game went on, and how do you think that improvement's going to help you as the season goes on?
Well, this team takes 31 threes a game. I don't know what their overall shot attempts is, but I got to say that's probably at least close to 50% of their shot attempts. And then they're also making 12 and a half a clip, so that's a pretty good percentage. And I thought in this first half they only made 2, so I was happy with that. I thought the adjustment that we made, to be honest with you, is just our rotations and staying in front of the ball. I thought Devin Booker, freshman who hasn't played much, he came in the game, he guarded, and I think that lifted his spirit to be able to catch a corner three and a shot that I desperately wanted to just – I wanted that kid to make that shot because he needs to see the ball go in the hoop. And so, again, nothing complicated that we did. I just thought we were a little bit tougher than them down the stretch, and, not going to sit here and act as if, like, I'm a magician. They missed a couple bunnies down the stretch. Then that's the game, man. A little bit of luck. Mixed in with just, how hard I thought we played down the stretch. Some of our switching down the stretch, they turned it over. We turned it over, but then we forced them to turn it over. It's a game of possessions. And like I said, when you're on your home floor and your opponent makes a mistake, you got to be able to punish them. And I thought we did that, got to the free throw line when we needed it, and made our free throws. And, again, that corner shot was it was big. And, making them miss, but then also finishing it with a one-shot possession and securing the basketball was huge down the stretch as well.
Coach, this is a little bit of a two-parter. I know Corey and Riley, and including Coach Caputo, mentioned that this environment was unlike other. It was a very huge environment. And I know you've been part of a lot of historic environments here at Mason. Was it kind of similar to that, and you kind of prepared the players that it was going to be that way? And that actually scratched the second part, but that would be that main question. Sorry, my apologies.
You got it. 6,500 felt like 8,000. I just kind of breezed through my phone and got some friends that just they were like, "Man, EBA looked crazy, and I wish I came to the game." And that's the messaging. If we're able to have this type of crowd and have this type of support as we get down the stretch here, we're going to play some really, really good teams. And we're not going to be able to survive those games with an empty gym. And I think these kids have been phenomenal with the way they play, how hard they play, how coachable they are, and really just who they are everywhere they go, on campus and within the community. I think they deserve it. They deserve it. And I'm just happy that it's all coming together because, again, it's not, there's a secret ingredient to being successful, and it takes everybody. And I just thought tonight, whether it was the student section, I thought GW brought their fans. And so it is a rivalry game. They're 30 minutes up the road, and, this is what college basketball is all about. And we're sitting here in 18-1, and I hope that everyone's watching this press conference because, if 6,500 is the bar, I'll take it. We've got some really, really good teams coming in the EBA, and, we're not going to be able to do it without the support that we had tonight.
Right. And Coach Caputo mentioned that, games like this, like regionally, like rivalries like this are important, especially to boost up the game. I was just curious if you had the same sentiment being from the area and also coaching in the area for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. These games are important for so many different reasons. Bragging rights, recruiting rights, And again, you look around the area, you know, GW's playing phenomenal basketball. We're playing phenomenal basketball. Sometimes we get overlooked in the DMV, right, because there's some other programs out there. And just being able to compete is a great college basketball game on an important day. And so, yes, these games do mean, you know, they mean everything. But the more and more I coach conference games, man, it's all the same.
Coach, you go on the road in a few weeks to face GW again. What do you feel is the key to taking home the win in that matchup as well?
The key is going to be to focus on Rhode Island, who we play on Saturday. I worry about GW when we get there.
Coach, your personnel may have changed, but like you said at Media Day, your personnel may change, but your personality doesn't. Mm-hmm. When it comes to this team, Team 60 specifically, what do you see on a daily basis when it comes to their connectivity on the defensive end, you know, man-to-man or zone?
Just the willingness to continue to get better. You know, detail is important, and you get to a point in time in the year where, you know, you can lose guys in that messaging for different reasons. But the individuals that we have, the character kids that we have, they're buying on a daily basis. You know, I see everything as a coach, right? And I'm watching body language. I'm watching guys doing film. Sometimes I say something, sometimes I don't. A lot of times I don't, just because, you know, we've been able to get these guys to do exactly what we've asked. And so, you know, to answer your question, you know, the coachability of this group and we're getting better defensively. I can actually say that. You know, we made some mistakes today, but we played an imperfect game. And I just thought for the most part, you know, our point of emphasis and what they do, you know, we really locked into that. I'm not going to go in detail in what that is, but when you have a day and a half to prep for that, and then you go out there and respond and execute it, that lets me know these guys are locked in, and, you know, we're going to continue to get better defensively.
Speaking of that connectivity, you have Braden O'Connor possibly returning soon. That's a good problem to have with the way your starting lineup's playing. How have you thought about how you fit him into all of this, and can you just talk about what that sort of reintegration looks like?
Yeah, you're right. It's a good problem to have. You know, he's working tirelessly to get healthy. He hasn't practiced yet, and so, you know, there's definitely a cadence of his return. He's got to be able to get out there and, you know, do stuff individually, do stuff non-contact, and then go contact. And so we'll evaluate that when that comes. But right now I want to focus on this team, Team 60, that's played, you know, 19 games now without Braden O'Connor. I think that's more important. And I love Braden to death. Braden wants to come back with this team, and, you know, we'll evaluate him when the time's right.
Coach, earlier Coach Caputo said you and him had a conversation about Coach Bill Courtney. Can you just tell me how much was that on your mind coming into today, and does that make this win that much more important for you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, absolutely. You know, Coach Courtney and I, you know, we're pretty close. I would even say over the last 2 or 3 years, we've gotten closer for different reasons. There's been a point in time where I actually thought about hiring Coach Courtney. You know, the irony and the full circle of, you know, kind of what we do with, you know, basketball. Coach Courtney was actually the point person or the lead recruiter when I came to George Mason. And, you know, I thought his spirit and the type of person he was, you know, it was a big reason why I made the decision just to come to George Mason and, you know, to just kind of see, you know, what happened with him. You know, it's not easy. I think it's a teachable moment for all of us to, you know, just value life. Because on the outside, you know, he was perfectly fine, and then one day just doesn't wake up. And so I know when we were at, I believe it was Loyola Chicago, when I got the call, you know, it was a tough day. You know, but again, you know, he's in a better place, and I'm sure he was looking down on this game, especially, you know, versus Chris Caputo in his GW game.
Hi, Coach. So how big is it to get a win today on a day where you guys were on national TV? There's not that big of a college basketball slate. I mean, this game might have been the highest quality between the two teams of any game in college basketball today. So a lot of people are watching you guys today that maybe aren't normally watching you guys. How big was it to win this game knowing all that?
Yeah, I mean, this was, you know, obviously today's Martin Luther King Day, a phenomenal day for us to celebrate a lot of different things, you know, most importantly, opportunity, right? And we got that opportunity today to play on national television. And, we capitalized on it, and I think it's just great. It's great for so many reasons. It's great for the rivalry to continue. It's really good for George Mason. It's a great platform. It's really good for our league as well. I mean, that was a competitive game, and so again, it's a Monday. I don't watch anything else except for Atlantic 10 basketball, so I don't know what the hell is going on today. I think there's a football game going on tonight. I'm not a football guy. But, again, we got the dub when it mattered, where it mattered, and we've just got to be able to enjoy this. And, like I tell my guys all the time, when you get a good win like this, you got to, toss it up and throw it in the trash can and move on to the next.
Coach, we've talked a lot about, defend Nova, win the regional battles. What's one message you want me to take back to my readers to keep this place packed on a nightly basis?
Yeah, patriot pressure, it's a real thing, right? And I needed something else to help this group understand exactly what patriot pressure is. And I think I found it with our teeth message, right? We need teeth. And EBA had teeth tonight. And I thought that, there's certain moments in the game where, as a competitor, you can feel it. And I felt that in this game. And, again, we talk about being Nova's team and defending Nova. These kids are doing it. And the more support we can have, the more consistency we'll continue to build. Rome wasn't built in a day. And, game by game, program by program, we're building that culture here at Mason. And this group is really setting that standard with what they're doing because, again, no one would have betted on this team when we put this team together. We lose 90% of our production, our minutes, and then the other 10% breaks his foot in the first game. If I was a betting man, I shouldn't say that. I'm not a betting man. Jesus. Teed myself up right for that one. Golly. I wouldn't have, I would have counted this team out and definitely not, saw 18-1. And so my message would just be, I think this is a special group. There's a reason why we continue to give each group a different number name, and Team 60 is putting on for George Mason at a high level, and it's got to continue that support. Appreciate it.